Freddie Freeman was scratched from the very first game of the season. Let's discuss on Fantasy Baseball Today Express. Welcome into FBT Express on Wednesday, March 18th. I am Frank Stampfl, joined by Chris Towers. Catch you up on the latest news and notes. Freddie Freeman was scratched from their very first game in Tokyo due to left rib discomfort. Apparently, this was an injury he dealt with during the World Series last year. Now, we're recording this at 12:30 a.m., so he might be in the lineup for Game 2. But, Chris, the fact that this was an injury he had in the World Series, along with his ankle, and it popped up again, it's a little bit scary. What do you think about Freddie Freeman?
Yeah, in reading about it, it sounds like the thought, at least, is whatever the injury was like a cartilage injury from the World Series. The thought is that this was just scar tissue breaking off, which is a fairly normal part of the recovery from an injury like this and shouldn't be a long-term issue. Freddie Freeman said he expects not to miss even the next game, or said he has a good chance of playing. It's probably just a pain management issue for a short while, but here's the thing. Even if he doesn't play in Wednesday's game, the second game of the season, then he has 8 more days to get ready for the real start of the season. So it doesn't seem like anything to be too concerned about. We did a mock draft on Tuesday night, right before we recorded this, and I took him. I think it was 29th or 30th overall. It's maybe a little lower than I have him ranked, but it was right around ADP. And I don't know. It would have been interesting, I guess, to let him go and see how long he went. I know you said that was your approach in passing on.
Scott said he would have taken him at, I guess that would have been pick.
But 3 more picks, yeah. So it doesn't sound like he would have fallen too far. I don't know. In leagues with no IL spots, maybe you be a little more cautious with him over the next week or so if he doesn't play tomorrow, but I don't really expect this to be a long-term issue.
On Monday or Tuesday, we learned about Mookie Betts dealing with this illness that caused him to lose 15 pounds and is not going to play in the Tokyo series at all. In fact, he's already been sent back to LA. 15 pounds is quite a bit here, Chris. Maybe he gets off to a bit of a slow start, take him some time to regain some of that weight and build the power back up. Any concerns at all with Mookie Betts? Should he maybe slip to the early second round now?
I have no idea how to answer this, honestly. Like, I want to say that I have no concerns, but truly we don't know. This sounds like one of those things that if we get to July and Mookie Betts is struggling and he says, yeah, I just never felt right, that wouldn't totally shock me. But it's also entirely possible that they got some IVs in him and they just sent him home as a precaution. And the fact that they sent him back on a 12-hour flight should seem to suggest that they're not too concerned about it. So I don't know. I think the gap this year between like the 6th and the 15th pick is relatively small. So if you wanted to move Mookie Betts down to 15, I wouldn't really argue with it. You know, Julio Rodriguez and Francisco Lindor, like if you pass on Mookie Betts for those guys, that would be a reasonable decision in a vacuum, let alone with this injury or this illness. So I don't have a strong opinion about it one way or the other. I'm fine moving Mookie down a little bit out of precaution.
We have Red Sox updates, I think. Aroldis Chapman appears to have become the in-house favorite to open the season as the Red Sox closer. That is according to Chris Cotillo and Sean McAdam of MassLive.com. Now, that's not according to Alex Cora or anyone in the Red Sox organization, but these are beat writers who are around and they're reading the tea leaves here. And so maybe we have some clarity for now to start the season. Chris, do you believe it? What do you think about Aroldis Chapman?
Yeah, I mean, look, Liam Hendriks coming back from Tommy John surgery, coming back from everything that he's come back from, including a cancer diagnosis a couple of years ago. I was always rooting for him, but it felt like a long shot that he would be able to get back to his former role and effectiveness. And look, say what you want about Aroldis Chapman. It's always a kind of queasy situation when he's working in the ninth, but still gets a ton of strikeouts, just about as many as anyone in baseball. Still usually has an ERA in the mid-3s. The whip is high because the walks are bad, but he's a viable closer. He's not a shutdown guy anymore, but he's not so bad that you have to run away from him. So I do think there's a chance that he just opens the season as the closer and runs away with it because he's just good enough. at least until the Red Sox trade him, which I think would probably be the preference closer to the deadline.
If you play in a roto league, would you prefer Chapman as your third closer, or do you feel a little bit better about him as a low-end second closer?
I would, if I wait a long time, like if I take an Emmanuel Clase and then I wait for my second closer, I guess he would be fine. But no, I think ideally Aroldis Chapman would have to be your third. Yeah.
All right, let's take a quick break. We'll be back right after this.
Brackets are back. Play CBS Sports Bracket Games for a chance to win a new SUV and a trip to the 2026 Final Four. Get the CBS Sports App now to play.
Welcome back in, FBT Express. And according to those same two Red Sox reporters, Kristian Campbell appears to be the favorite to win the second base job. And that comes after knowing Campbell is batting .167 with a 36% strikeout rate this spring. Chris, we just did that mock draft. You drafted him inside of the top 200. So you were pretty aggressive on this. You are moving Kristian Campbell up?
Yeah, and that was a bit of like a flag planting situation and saying, if that report is accurate, here's what it would look like. But I think I was probably a little too aggressive with it. And, maybe I think I took him like 178th overall or something like that. And maybe he's probably better off closer to 200 outside the top 200. I know Matt Shaw went after him. Well, Matt Shaw made his debut. He made the team. He's out there.
He's batting fifth in the Cubs lineup.
I think Kristian Campbell's a better prospect. The numbers he put up last year, 330 with a 439 OBP and a 558 slugging percentage in his first full season as a pro. If that was real at all, he's probably the best hitting prospect in baseball. The only reason he's more like the third or fourth is because there's just a little bit of question after only one season. But I think the talent is super high. 20 homers, 24 steals in 115 games. So there's 5 category potential if he hits. And I will point out, this wasn't necessarily just beat writer speculation. It was, the way they phrased it was, he appears to be the favorite, quote, in the mind of the team decision makers. So they do seem to be hinting at some inside information there. I don't know. There was another beat reporter who said David Hamilton is the favorite to be the second baseman a couple days ago. So we are in the realm of uncertainty right now. We'll know better in about a week, but most drafts are probably going to be done by the time we know for sure. I think he should be drafted in every league at the very least until we know for certain. And if he is the starting second baseman, I think he's worth a top 200 pick. Yes.
Kristian Campbell's ADP over the past week, 314.4. Yeah. That is bound to rise after this latest report. Darvish the other day was scratched from his start due to fatigue, is what we learned. But then turns out he is experiencing elbow inflammation. So obviously this is not ideal, Chris. And it's another situation where we were lied to by teams and players. And this is rough for the Padres too, because they are very thin in their rotation. Is Darvish even worth drafting anymore?
There are so many interesting later round pitchers and even guys who used to be late round pitchers, but who are getting pushed up now, that it would be very easy for Darvish to fall behind, because at this point in his career, I think the best you were hoping for is useful. And you can talk yourself into Max Meyer, let's say, being more than useful, being a must-start guy if everything comes together. And I think it's unlikely Darvish is going to be much more than just useful. So, yeah, until we know for certain, and it's worth noting, he's still played catch on Tuesday. He hasn't been totally shut down. It doesn't sound like there's too much concern, but there's just not enough upside here to pass on the other interesting late-round arms. So I think Darvish is just a bench pick at best right now.
All right. For more extensive fantasy baseball coverage, listen to our full-length podcast, Fantasy Baseball Today, on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anywhere else podcasts are found. Thanks for listening to Fantasy Baseball Today Express, and we will be back again tomorrow. Bye-bye.